Hi everyone, and welcome to the Softball Canada Speaker Series presented by Rawlings Canada. Today's webinar will be the third team with our guest speakers from the Officiating Development Committee, Sandra Forand, Geneviève Gaudreau, and Scott McLaren. Although the softball season is currently suspended due to the coronavirus situation, we are happy to have the opportunity to engage with everyone listening at home, and we hope you will enjoy listening to our great speakers. Bonjour à tous et bienvenue à la série de webinaires de Softball Canada présentée par Rawlings Canada. Le webinaire d'aujourd'hui est la troisième équipe avec nos invités spéciaux du comité de développement des officiels Sandra Forand, Geneviève Gaudreau et Scott McLaren. Quoique la saison de softball est présentement suspendue en raison de la situation COVID-19, on est heureux d'avoir la chance de nous engager avec vous et on espère que vous aimerez écouter à nos excellents invités. La majorité de ce webinaire aura lieu en anglais, mais Geneviève sera capable de répondre à vos questions en français. Veuillez s'il vous plaît poser vos questions dans la boîte des questions sur votre écran durant les présentations. On posera vos questions aux invités à la fin. The majority of this webinar will take place in English, but Geneviève will be able to answer any questions that may come up in French. Please make sure you type your questions in the question box throughout the webinar. We will be working your questions in at the end of the presentation. Before we get started, we want to thank you all for joining us and for following the social distancing measures as directed by the Government of Canada and your local health authorities. Softball Canada is monitoring the situation closely and is posting regular updates on its website. Please continue to follow the government's COVID-19 prevention measures to help flatten the curve, and we'll be back on the field as soon as it's safe to do so. Avant de commencer, on veut vous remercier d'être avec nous et de suivre les mesures de distanciation sociale telles qu'identifiées par le gouvernement du Canada et vos autorités locales de soins de la santé. Softball Canada surveille la situation de près et publie des mises à jour régulières sur son site web. Veuillez continuer à suivre les mesures de prévention du gouvernement du Canada pour aider à rétrécir la courbe et on sera de retour sur le terrain dès que ce sera possible d'y retourner en sécurité. Allow me to introduce our host for today's webinar. We have Donna Zarco, our Manager of Officials and Publications out of the Softball Canada office, and Jeff Whipple, Softball Canada's National Director of Umpires. Welcome to both of you, and thank you for hosting this webinar.
Hi, everybody. First, let me introduce Scott McLaren. Scott started umpiring 10 years old. He has worked many Canadian championships, earning his level 5 in 2012 and receiving his WBSC certification in 2013. Since then, he has worked 2 World Championships and 2019 Olympic qualifier in Surrey, BC. In 2017, Scott was named WBSC International Umpire of the Year. Known as Scooter to many, he lives in Penticton, British Columbia, and works in the insurance industry.
Sandra Forand has umpired fast pitch, but she really prefers the challenge of the slow pitch game. She earned her level 5 at the Men's Canadian Championships in 2015 and her WBSC certification in 2017. Sandra is the only female internationally certified slow pitch umpire in the world. She has represented Softball Canada at the European Championships in 2017 and at the 2018 Border Battle. Sandy's also officiated NCAA Division I basketball and Canadian University basketball, and is also heavily involved in the Special Olympics program in basketball, most recently representing Canada as an official at the 2019 World Games in Abu Dhabi. She's from Welland and works as a special needs educator.
Our third guest is Jen Gaudreau. It took 20 years of playing and 4 years of coaching before she made her first good call and became an umpire. She earned her level 5 in 2006 and certified as an international umpire 2 years later. One of Canada's most experienced international umpires, Jen worked the 2011 U19 Women's World Championship in South Africa, the Women's World Championship in both 2014 and 2016, and 2015 Pan Am Games in Toronto, as well as 2019 Olympic qualifier. Wow, Jen. Earlier this year, she worked the U19 Men's World Championship in New Zealand. And when softball makes its return to the Olympics, Jen will be one of the 2 Canadian umpires on the umpire crew. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for taking the time to join us.
So, Scooter.
Yes.
10 years old, seriously, like you were a strange kid. How did you ever start?
Strange adult.
Such a young, strange adult too. How did you start at such a young age? What got you in it?
You're probably expecting something like love of the game or necessity or something, but really, I really love dark blue and light blue, and I couldn't be a bus driver and couldn't be a cop. So umpiring, it was. No, honestly, it was. I was 10 and my brother was playing, and they needed an umpire, so I started, and I still am. I just loved the game and would pretty much do anything to be involved, whether it was scorekeeping, playing, tried to avoid the rake, but generally wanted to be on the field. So yeah, so that's how I started. I was young and they said, you go do it. So I went and did it.
Cool.
Excellent. So here's one for you, Sandra. How did you get started as an official? Were there any individuals who recruited you into the umpiring side of the sport?
Well, I started out in basketball reffing, and I was very young. I was 15, and my Aunt Willa Leach was a basketball referee, strong female role model, and my mom as well. And I was scouted into the NCAA, had to go to Rutgers for a tryout camp. I had 2 little kids, and first call was to my mom, and she said, "Yeah, you're going." And I think that kind of support really helped in umpiring, playing fast pitch and slow pitch. It was natural progression to get into another sport. I always say that to officials. If you're a solid official in one sport, you could make the transition because the game management's a big piece. I worked for remarkable people like Bruce Bierman in fast pitch, Jack Van Bynen, Glenn Anthony, Steve Camus, and they're all role models, and role models are there when you fall too. And coaches like Jeff Long are just remarkable people in the sport that support officials, and they've been there. And Jeff Whipple, I have to always say Jeff Whipple, because the toughest time that I probably have in the sport, Jeff Whipple was the one that gave me a phone call and brought me back onto the diamond. So thank you, Jeff.
Now you're making me blush.
And you didn't really have to give credit to Camus, by the way.
Oh, you wouldn't believe he's back there with me sometimes, and he's sweating bullets when I'm doing games. So, that is a big shout out to Steve too. He's very supportive.
Biased.
So, Jen, you do other sports? You're an umpire, officiate other sports?
Me? Yes.
Yes. Which ones?
Ringette.
Ringette.
Yes, and during the winter, and I did a little bit of handball back in high school.
Cool. So, can you remember when you first thought about umpiring? Like, how did you become an umpire?
Softball umpire or just an umpire?
Well, just an umpire, softball umpire.
Softball umpire. Well, I fell in love with softball at an early age, so I played for many years, and apparently I was good at it. So I played for the Quebec Rebelle program here in the province of Quebec, and then after many years playing, I wanted to do something else. I was a little bit tired of playing. I had a few injuries that I needed to get rid of. So somebody asked me, well, why don't you go into coaching? So I'm like, okay, let's try that. So I went to coach the Quebec Rebelle team, the U19 women's. I did that for 4 years, and then I learned a lot. And it was I was thinking as a player still at that time, because when I was playing, I was a catcher. So my job was to work the strike zone with the umpires all the time. So when I was coaching, I was in charge of the catcher, and I was working the strike zone still with them, working with the pitcher, my catchers, and the umpires at some times. And I was always really interested in rules, So I was asking questions, and we had pretty good umpires here in the province during my my term as a coach. So and then I was seeing them at the national level too. Every time we go in a Canadian championship, there was you know, great umpires there. And one of the last Canadian championship I did as a coach, the UIC at that time from that tournament was Lucy Carmichael. And I had a few chat with her because, you know, when you go into a Canadian championship, not many people speak French other than your team. You have a few coaches and then 1 or 2 umpires. So we were chatting in between the games, and I was telling her, well, I'm a little bit tired of coaching. I want to do something else. I don't want to get rid of that game, go far from that game because I love softball so much. So she said, why don't you start umpiring? I'm like, sounds good. So I did the clinics, and here I am.
So let me ask you, Jen. So you said you were a catcher. So how did you work the umpire as a catcher? Did you?
Well, I wasn't a big talker. I was taking hints, framing, you know, try to find the strike zone and make my pitcher throw balls in that strike zone. Because, you know, sometimes it's changed. Sometimes one night you get the outside corner, the next night you don't get it. So you have to find ways to make your pitcher throw strikes or to make the batter hit the balls, and then your team can make the outs. So that's about it.
Good.
Awesome. That's really neat. Scott, this one's for you. You spent a long time in the minor leagues working on your game. Was there ever a time when you thought about quitting as a youth umpire? What was it that kept you in the game? And what advice do you have for youth umpires when it comes to retaining young officials?
Let's see. No, I never thought about quitting. I thought about retiring, but I guess that's an old person's thing. But no, quitting, no. I was always I'm what you would call a true believer. There's pretty much nothing that would get me away from the game. Something that's probably good as a kid and not so great as an adult when you have other responsibilities. But no, I never wanted to leave because it was always where I wanted to be. And then as far as young officials, I think the one I really want to push, or I really like to tell young officials, is just work really hard. The harder you work at being an umpire and the more effort you give on the field, the better you're going to get. And really the easiest way to deal with bad situations or fans or coaches and stuff is just being really good. And putting in the effort and the time on the field, so the coaches and the players and the spectators, they all get to know you and know that you're out there giving your best effort, and that builds you a lot of credit with those people. So when something may go wrong, you have a little bit of a reputation to rely on, and they're a little more forgiving, and they know that you're out there doing your very best and working very hard. So it makes the day at the park better.
I can't believe at 10 that there wasn't issues or whatever. Is youth umpires, Jeff, I think that's probably the number where we lose the largest amount of officials in every sport, I think.
Well,
So
I think yes and no. The thing I think is, I mean, officiating is a weird little thing anyways. I think most people that try it are not going to like it. So I think we just have to understand that first, that, you know, only 1 in 5 or 6, and these are made up numbers, are probably going to like it. I think of the people that I started umpiring with, even the people that I played with, now at my increasingly advanced age, I'm the only one left. So, and you know, there's a couple guys that I see in the men's league that I played against, but all the people I started umpiring with, you know, probably when I like 12 or 13, that group, I was the only one left by the time I was 19. And it's not because they disliked umpiring or the sport. It's just they found boys or girls or cars or jobs or just something else to do.
So Jen, you're a phys ed teacher. That's your other job, your part-time job besides umpiring.
Yes.
So your day is spent with young people trying to talk about fitness and healthy living and all of that as part of their everyday lives. As an umpire, how has our role and how have some of those old umpires, we used to have that old ideal of Eric Gregg, 350 pounds, strolling out, that used to be acceptable, but it's not anymore. How have you seen the ideas around body image and fitness changing as umpires, especially at the international and elite levels?
Well, I think it changed because before nobody was questioning the fitness of the umpires. They were there, and if you can remember, in the old movies, the umpires are always the big and tall guys making jokes, and nobody was taking them seriously. So we needed that image to change for sure. And now with more and more games televised, you don't have a choice. You have to present, fit umpires to go with that level of competition. I think it gives more credibility to our sport too, because those athletes, whatever the league, but if you're talking international, they're working really hard to be on that team and to perform at the highest level. And I think first impression is everything. So if you see an umpire's crew getting on the field and they look fit, somehow you look confident in themselves, and I think it gives credibility to the umpiring crew also on that field. And I think you need to be really fit to make great calls, to be at the right time at the right spot to make the best call possible. And I think it's all about softball.
The added benefit that if the fitter you are, the easier umpiring is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
I've heard Scooter, I've heard you make the analogy that basically, as an international umpire, you're part of the national team. You're part of our national umpires team.
I think so.
And, like that requires to be on the national men's or women's softball team. You're going to do a lot of work off the field, not just on the field. And so part of that, big part of that is fitness. And do you guys see umpiring as having the same kinds of demands if you want to play at that level? Jen, Scooter, Sandra?
I think so. I mean, the thing that really drives me is, as far as fitness goes, is I don't want my fitness to be the reason I made a mistake. I don't want to be a half step slow or 2 steps slow and not be able to see something that I should be able to see just because I didn't do some running during the off season or pay attention to how I was eating or make sure I was prepared. So for me, as much as anything, it's really selfish. It's just a matter of reducing all those factors that could lead to me making a mistake, because that's the one thing that I live in fear of, is making the mistake on the field. So if I can reduce the many things that lead into making mistakes, and fitness is huge because fatigue comes on so early into your brain and into your eyesight much earlier than it does into your physical feeling, like if you have energy on the field, that seeing and decision making goes really quickly. So the fitter you are, the longer you can maintain that edge, and the better you get to be as an official.
I think that's true in when you watch any TV game of any sport, the look of the official has changed into a fit official, male, female, whatever the sport is, because TV and having games being shown and with live play and playbacks, officials are a certain model now. They are certainly fit, and they have a job to do, and they need to be in the right place for the right call.
Yeah, I agree 100%, because those athletes, they're the best in the world, and I think they deserve the best umpires in the world too.
Yep. Yep.
Very true. Okay, Sandra, you have a high level of experience across many sports. What challenges did you endure as you gained experience as a new or female umpire? How has that experience helped you while umpiring men's A division and high-profile events, just like the border battle?
I think from my peers in basketball and umpiring, by the most part, they're male. So I had to fit in with a male group. And having said that, there can be difficulties with that in itself, but to be accepted, you really need to be a part of a group. You need to be a team on and off the diamond. I think needed to know all the rules for sure. And then building rapport first. I think rapport and that relationship that you build with the players, the coaches, not to the point of being off the diamond and mixing in too much, but to know that there's a relationship there. And then as you build that, and then you get into situations that might be more contentious, they see you as a person and not just a uniform or somebody that possibly could be abused. And I always try to remain confident now that I've gone through different stages in my life, definitely. But I've tried to be clear, concise, respectful, and I always want to have fun. I think that the players see me as a person that's approachable because of that. I'm not a stern type of official. And I always laugh because I work with special needs students. And I always tend to get the behavioral kids. And I'm a good match with the toughest kids because I've built rapport with them. It's like I've gotten something that I can use now when I have to de-escalate a situation. So I practice at school, but it's all the same thing, really. It's building rapport with the people in the game, in your work life, in your home life, so that you can, when you got to put that hammer down and draw a line of acceptable behavior, then people respect you for it.
I think what Sandy's saying, I really like it, is because so many things in life, whether it's officiating or not, is working hard and being nice kind of gets you a long ways. And that's, as an official, there's really no reason not to do those things. Like, why would you not be nice on the field or be polite to the participants and work with them? There's really no reason. So yeah, build rapport, because being nice and working hard gets you a long ways.
Very good point.
Yeah.
So, Scooter, a long way from the 10-year-old. In 2013, you got your WBSC certification, and you've established yourself as one of the best umpires in the world pretty quickly. You've worked 2 world championships, an Olympic qualifier, and in 2017, you were recognized as the WBSC's International Umpire of the Year. 2 or 3 keys to your success that you would share?
All right. I've been thinking about this. I knew the question was coming. So I think I have 3 things. One, and this works for life and umpiring, is just control what you can in your box. Worry about just what you can control. Let everything else take care of itself. And if you just worry about what you're doing and essentially just doing your job, officiating gets a little bit easier. You're not worrying about assignments or who's doing what or what game you're on, etc. Just worry about doing your very good job on that day. So just control your box. And then going from that, really big believer in growth mindset and just the idea of chasing excellence. So just concentrating on one pitch at a time, doing it really well that time, and then trying to do it better the next time. And then that takes away a lot of the other stuff outside of the box as well, because you're not worrying about what the coaches are thinking or what game you want to be on or what the supervisors are thinking. You're just worrying about that one pitch or that one play, telling everybody what you saw, and then moving on to the next. So, just trying to achieve a personal best on every situation you can, and working your way through that. And then the last thing, and I can't remember where I stole this from, but treating every game like it's the most important one ever, and it's the most important thing you do. But also at the same time, understanding it's not. It's a kid's game. And the fact that we're adults and still participating in a kid's game is fantastic. And so you have to understand that it's a sport and you want to work really hard at it and do really well, but it's still just a game. If you make a mistake, nobody dies. You just kind of go about your day. But that doesn't mean you don't have professionalism and drive. It just means you have to understand the perspective of what you're doing. So, like I said, control what you can. Try to get better every time you do it, and then understand that sometimes it won't work out, but that's okay. You just get it the next time.
I liked your point, Scott, about breaking down the pitch and the play of what you can control, because I know, have you ever been as an evaluator or you've been an umpire where you've lost your strike zone. And I've observed
that's assuming that I had it.
Well, and that's what you need to do, and you direct it for the umpire to say, concentrate on the pitch, concentrate on the delivery, concentrate on the strike zone, and that ultimately gets the person back into the role that they need to do.
Exactly. There's lots of research out there that you can read. I mean, there's the book like The Inner Game of Tennis and stuff, which really talks about, just becoming in the moment and just kind of being one with stuff. And so by concentrating on one small thing, it's so much easier to be in the moment because you're just doing one small thing. And it's one small thing that we've done, at this point in my career, probably, I don't know, maybe 1 million times, definitely in the hundreds of thousands of times that I've seen a pitch. So all I have to do is do that one thing one more time out of 1 million times I've already done it. It's not that overwhelming. Trying to worry about this big game or this situation and doing it right now, then you can add some gravity to it and then it becomes unusual. But if you concentrate on just keeping it as simple as possible, it makes your day so much easier.
Yep.
Wow, I should have taken notes on that one. That's awesome.
I stole all of that. It's not original.
I'll have to remember it all.
The book is coming soon, right, Scott?
Sure.
Okay. Sandra, many would recognize you as petite. Some would argue that a physical presence is an advantage for umpires, but you haven't let that hinder your success. What strategies do you use in regard to diamond presence to help you manage elite male players at an event like the Border Battle who are much bigger than you?
I think you'd have to be blind not to see that I'm a petite person.
Also, Don, I feel hurt that you didn't use petite for me.
You're looking above because you can't see me. And that's been funny through the years, believe me. But it's interesting, Jen, when you said as a catcher, how you dealt with the umpires and body image, because I can recall when I umpired fast pitch and did men's fast pitch as well, that when I had a mask on, and if you were consistent with your strikes, your strike zone, there wasn't an issue being a male or a female. Slow pitch, basketball, you're visual. So when the officials walk onto the diamond, there's already a preconceived notion about how you're going to officiate this game. We've got, say, a tall male, kind of the policeman concept. And we have this little female. And one of the ball players, House, is 7 feet tall. And it's always remarkable to see me standing next to him. He's such a gentle giant, and he's an awesome, awesome ball player. I have a gym voice when I'm yelling out in the yard at school. Kids hear that voice, and it goes a long way. So very assertive, very strong. I've had advice that when I'm making calls or timer to come out in front, to be more visual, to add to that perspective. Like Scott said about speed and athleticism, I may be challenged on a call by a coach from the coach's area, but I'm where I need to be. And so that goes a long way. And I always think that good mechanics get you in the right spot to make the best decision on a call, right? A judgment call. Once again, enjoying the game, communicating clearly when necessary, and being approachable. And even as a small person, I think that all of those go a long way to being accepted at a men's level.
I think I want to add on to what Sandra's saying. I mean, she's talking about size, but I think a lot of people also deal with age. As being a younger umpire, I mean, when I first started in the men's division, most of the players are 8 or 10 years older than me. So much like Sandra doing the same thing, you're relying on the same things: your effort, your personality, and you're building that rapport. You're learning your mechanics and your techniques so that you can show the players that you deserve to be there. And ultimately, once you show them that you belong there, regardless of male, female, young, old, whatever, they really don't care. They are selfish, and they simply want the calls right. They don't care who does it, as long as you get it right. Now, will they default to some of the old jokes? If you get things wrong, you're too young, you're too old, you're too woman, you're too man. Yes, but for the most part, if you give them the effort and what they need, then they will be happy. Donna,
Your puppy, Jen?
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's not mine.
No, I thought I was Donna for
You're
sure.
over there.
That dog's a giant.
My dog's
It's
munched on bones.
It's part of life at home right now.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
all of you are on the ODC, and thank you for all the hard work you do, by the way. People, I don't think, realize the stuff that goes on pretty consistently at our level. But Jen, you've also spent time provincial umpire-in-chief. How important is it to you that you're all able to give back to the game and in that kind of a way? And Jen, you specifically, and what roles can umpires play in terms of supporting others?
First of all, I think it's really, really important to give back to the program, because for me, when I got into the program, many umpires were there before me. Some of them jumped at the program at the same time as me, and there are others umpires that jump in the program after me. So I had the chance to work with really experienced umpire in my area. So I want to do that for the next generation after me. So I think it's really important to give back, to be there, and to, you know, give your experience to someone else, or maybe try to give to you know, give interest to people to come into umpiring. I was a player for many years, and as Scott was saying earlier, nobody else than me is umpiring. Everybody else does something else. So it's hard to find new people. But when you have, I think a big role you can play is a mentor. So I had mentors. I'm pretty sure Scott and Sandra, you had mentors too. So it's really important to have somebody who you can ask questions, who you can, you know, if you're having a hard game or something really, you know, not nice, or some people are saying really bad things to you, how do you manage that if you don't have somebody with experience that you can ask the question, or somebody to reassure you that, you know, umpiring is a great thing. And being a mentor is really important. That's one way to give back. Other than that, creating a, you know, a fraternity or making new friends, or I think the umpires community is a really fun part of that. So you just jump in the, you know, the Blue Convention or provincial events or national events, or you can be part of any committee down your province, whether depending on your skills, the skills you have. And yeah, you can be also an instructor if you're good at it, or you can be an evaluator for provincials or nationals. You can be a scheduler. You can be in charge of recruiting and retention for new umpires. And I think the big part of it is being just a big and strong role model for the other ones, male or female. It's really important to, you know, be there, give the great example, and then make sure you jump into any opportunities that are there for you to evolve and grow up as an umpire and as a person.
I think, I mean, I just echo all that. I mean, and I'm going to do the short version, you know, just leaving the game in a better place than when you found it. You know, we all stand on the generations that come from behind, that came before us. So to be able to give back to the game and make it just hopefully even 1% better than when we started is just fantastic. So, and you assume that long after we go away, the game's going to keep going and people are going to keep doing this. So you just want the game to be solid and you know, ready for the people to take it further along.
Exactly.
Yeah, you guys are all an inspiration, that's for sure. So I got another one for you, Scooter.
Okay.
Many umpires have had the opportunity to represent the province, their province at a Canadian championship. Can you even begin to describe what it feels like to represent a whole country at a World Cup event? And what thoughts and feelings go through your mind as you get on the plane for your first WBSC event?
All right. So getting on the plane wasn't the big deal for me. I've kind of realized that as I get closer to an event, I just kind of go into a tunnel and just kind of start eliminating everything else by the wayside. I just kind of start focusing on everything. So, and that I don't tend to come out of that tunnel until the last day or last game of that event once you're finished, and then it kind of everything hits me. So I don't know what it's like getting there. I know what it's to get out of there, and I know, getting to hear your name next to the country's name is ridiculous. It still is ridiculous to me. I don't understand it a lot of the time. It's crazy, but I do know that as I do have some profile, I guess, internationally, to, always so happy to have Canada next to it.
Yeah.
And then I think where it really set in for me is not watching softball, just watching other sporting events. Anytime you see Team Canada playing, it just strikes home a little bit harder than just before. It's just now you're slightly just more invested in, and you kind of feel a kinship with those people because you know what they're doing and how excited they are to have Canada on their chest or behind their name. So that's where it really strikes in, is when you start to see everybody else out there with the privilege of representing the country, and you realize that you're just one small part of that. And then that gets really overwhelming.
But Canadian officials, like at your tournaments, Jen's tournaments, mine, I think that organizers know that the Canadian officials are there to do their job. They'll do their job well, and they can count on them. I mean, it's evident. Every tournament that you're in, Scott, that you're in, Jen, going to the Olympics, like how proud is that? I'm proud of you and Frankie Billingsley for doing. I think it's just an awesome opportunity, and I'm so proud.
Thank you.
Yeah, the fact that our program is doing so well and is recognized internationally is tremendous. I mean, it's so fun to see Frankie and Jen, and they're going to be at that front of that crew leading it. Is just such a testament to our program, but also and their hard work. But it's just as somebody else, when you're like, yeah, those are my friends and they're representing Canada, that's so exciting. It's like I know them. And so when the games actually happen, at some point, I'll be sitting there in my chair watching and just be so excited that I'm watching my friends represent the country.
That's awesome.
It's hard to explain.
Even when they get hit in the arm, I was really feeling for you, Jen. Like, is she coming back to the game?
Oh no! See, I was the other way. I was like, don't rub it. Get the Windex.
Index.
Go, Jen. Yeah.
It's an umpire thing, Donna.
Yeah.
Okay.
The big fat Greek wedding thing. It really is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All.
So
Never heard that one before.
there's lots of other umpire programs and other things in life. And Sandra, you just became a new Grammy. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. My best job ever.
Isn't it? I think so too. So like all of us, you're kind of thinking about how does this end? Like, when does it end? And what keeps you kind of hanging out in our program? And not that we're trying to drive you away, because we love having you, but what is it that keeps you alive, keeps you motivated?
Well, I truly believe in strong role models, like Jen talked about. I think if other people see you in a role, whether it's a player or a coach or anyone, that they're more likely to get involved because they've seen somebody in that role. They've seen a strong female, they've seen a strong male and thought, that's possibly something I could try. I'm a big volunteer in my community. So this COVID situation, being at home at night is an oddity. Like, I would not be home all this much.
This might keep her around more, because she's like, I don't want to be home anymore.
It's like, is this how other people really live their lives? They're home every night? Because I'm not. I run a basketball tournament for my community for scholarships for kids going to university. I volunteer anywhere. Like, we had the World Canoe Races here in Welland, and I volunteered. I know nothing about canoeing, but I thought people volunteer for all of us when we're at a tournament, and I thought, I need to volunteer for them because people volunteered for me. And Softball Canada is such a strong program that we lead by example, and whether you're male and whether you're female, you're just a positive role model. And we can pass that on to our children, to our friends, and my grandson, like to be that way and to show other people and your family members what you've done for your community, I think is a lifelong activity. I can't see not doing it.
Ask a busy person.
Yeah.
Damn it, now I'm going to have to volunteer for things, Sandy. Jeez.
Yeah.
Too good of a role model. Ah! All right, let's find some canoe races to volunteer at.
Jen, can you describe the feeling you felt when you found out you were selected for the Olympics? Had you allowed yourself to even dream the possibility? And I'm sure the delay to 2021 is difficult. What will it mean to have another Canadian alongside you?
Well, actually, everybody knew before me. So I was going at work that day. Yeah, that was pretty funny because I'm a teacher, so I can't look at my phone. Normally, I do it on lunchtime, but that lunchtime I didn't have time because I had meetings and everything. So at the end of the day, it's 3 o'clock. I'm going into my office and I check my phone. So I'm having 8 text messages, 6 missed phone calls. I'm like, what's going on? And the last text was from Jeff Whipple asking me to call him, and then he leaves me his cell phone number. Well, I'm working with Jeff since the last 6 years, so I got his phone number. I'm like, what is he giving me his phone number? So I'm calling him. What's going on? He said, did you check your email? I'm like, no, what's going on? He said, you're going. Wow. So that was incredible. I was really excited. I was happy. I was really honored and also really proud. You can hear it.
Yeah.
I talked to her, I think probably within a few minutes of you finding out, because you were still at school running around trying to find people to tell. And yes,
Yes.
the joy and the volume and the elation in the voice it was crazy. It's just yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is something, and I think Canada is the only country that had two umpires that are going. So I think it says a lot about our umpiring program back in Canada. And I'm really happy Frankie Billingsley is coming with me. That way I'm gonna have somebody to talk to if something goes wrong. But yeah, we're working. She was with me in New Zealand too, so we had a lot of fun there, and the crew over there was really awesome too. So I think it's a big event. Then we had the COVID, and it was postponed. So I didn't mind. I think security first for people, and I'm just happy that they didn't cancel the games, and we'll see next year. Other than that, I think it's gonna be a big event because softball wasn't there till since 2008. I think it was the last time. So since that time, we worked. Every federation, everybody, every umpire, every softball player worked to bring back softball into the Olympics. And when we heard in 2016 that it was a possibility, I'm like, oh. It's a possibility. So everywhere there is a possibility, something can happen. So I'm like, well, maybe I have a shot. So I'm just gonna keep working hard, having fun doing it, and do my best at it, and hopefully I might have a chance. So when that happened, I was really happy, really honored, really proud, and really excited for sure. And yeah.
So Jen, you mentioned Lucy earlier as somebody who was instrumental in driving you and asking you to get into umpiring. For those who don't know, Lucy Carmichael was at the 1996 Olympic Games in Atlanta as one of 3 Canadian umpires at the first softball competitions in the Olympic Games. Have you talked to her since you found out? What kinds of conversations have you had a chance to talk to Lucy about her experience and getting you ready?
Well, she was one of the first person I called.
Oh.
I was in my car driving, and then I'm going back home after work. So she answered the phone, and she was really happy for me. And she gave me a tip. She said, just keep focused, because she's giving small advice. Stay focused, keep focused, stay focused. I'm like, okay, I will. And then she was really happy for me. And then she shared with me a little bit of her experience. I've heard it before, but she was all over the place. Really happy and proud, and I guess pretty much everybody's gonna follow those games next summer for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're just figuring out that people are going to watch the Olympics.
And Lucy's had such an important role to so many umpires in the country, especially females, and especially females in Quebec. I think if you look at the Quebec program, and it's known for having produced a lot of high quality female officials, and a lot of those people owe a lot to Lucy, including yourself.
Yeah, exactly. She has been my mentor. She's a strong role model too. So yeah, a lot of people look up to her for sure.
Cool. So quick fire round. We're coming up to sort of near the end. To each of you, if you were going to give one piece of advice for a new umpire who's gaining some experience, is showing some promise, but they want to aspire to represent Softball Canada on the international stage, just like all of you, what would be that piece of advice? Sandra, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Scott and Jen.
I think the biggest thing, especially for women, is support. And Annie wrote a remarkable article about women from the Women's Working Group, how to balance family and kids and sports. And it's about supports. And I think that without supports, a lot of women go through different points in their lives where they have children or partners, and then their bodies change, and just different changes, especially for women. And you need those supports. Could be your partner, your parents, your husband, your family, because when you're out that door that night, or that weekend, or that week, or weeks, you need people to help support you on and off the diamond to get through that. So the supports are very, very important in our lives, and I don't think we can really do it without those supports.
Scooter?
Yeah. Patience. Patience is my key, to the new officials that want to hit the international stage. I started umpiring at 10, got really serious at probably about 18, and then didn't get and reached my international certification about, I think, 34 or 35. So whatever it is, it's almost 20 years. So be patient. Like, it's going to take a long time. And that's okay, because you need that long time to build up your skill level and your strength in officiating. So, but just be patient. Focus on that one game that you're doing now, and the little markers that are right in front of you, and achieving those. Don't worry about representing Canada right away. Have that as your big goal. But just focus on the small little things that you can do right in front of you, achieving those, doing those well, finding something else to do, but being really patient, because for most people, it's going to take 10 to 15 to 20 years before you get to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Jen?
Yeah, I was going to go that way. First of all, work hard, but make sure you're having fun doing it. It's really important that it's not too hard. You're working hard, and then make sure you're having fun doing it, and the most of it, stay humble, because that game is for the players. It's not just for you, the umpire. And I think it's easy to go crazy when you get any kind of promotion. Let's say you start regional, you go provincial, wow, and then you go national, wow, and then you go international, wow. It's really important to stay humble in all the success you can get.
Yeah, and you have to
our
get
good friend.
Sorry.
Sandra, go ahead.
I was going to say, you got to get your clinics. You got to start leveling up through the program, and you might have to travel to go to a better game. You have to put that time commitment into it and be patient and as well, but you might have to go out of your comfort zone to get there.
Yeah. Jen, when you mentioned humble, our good friend, Mr. Brown, Wayne Brown, former National Director of Umpires, would be very proud and excited to hear you say that, because that was his one mantra, is always, always, always any success that you get, because when you get success, somebody else doesn't.
Yeah.
It's always disappointing.
Yes, or even your success, everybody, I've been selected for the Olympics, but I'm not going over there alone. Everybody else is following me in my suitcase for sure. My mentors, my colleagues, the girls I played with, the coach I work with, you guys, everybody's coming with me over there for sure.
Cool.
Excellent. Okay, last question for all of you. What was your most memorable moment on or off the diamond as an official? And then Jen, we'll start with you, and then Scott, and then Sandra after that.
For me, I think it was my first international event. I was sent in Prague, Czech Republic, for the U16 Eastern Youth Cup, first international event. You go there. I think it was the second time I took the plane. Go there, nobody speaks French. I'm like, ugh, this is big. Everything was new, new country, new language, new people, and then you're there, and in 12 hours, you got to be friends with the other 12 umpires you're going to work for the week. And then the thing cooled off, that cooled me off, was in the ride from the airport to the hotel, because my taxi driver said to me, well, we're going to wait from the umpire from Italy. I'm like, okay. So this guy jumped in the car with us, and then we're talking in English a little bit. And then he said, well, I was born in Montreal. I'm like, what? So this guy was born in Montreal. He was my neighbor all that time. And he was born here because his dad was working here for 1 or 2 years, and then they went back to Italy. So he didn't speak French, but he was born in Montreal. So I'm like, oh. So all of a sudden we became really
Small
best
world.
friends. Yes. And this guy is now in the big committee in Italy. It's Andrea Marcon.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
President of the Federation of Softball Baseball in Italy. Yeah.
Exactly. So my tournament, I had a really good tournament over there. I ended up with the final behind the plate. So I was really happy. Good people, great teamwork, good level of ball. Everything was perfect. So I fell in love with those events, and I was looking forward for the next one.
Yeah.
That's
Some
a
of
neat
our
story.
would know Andrea because he's been to Blue Convention at least once or twice.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, he's been to a few.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good.
All
Scott.
right. Mine was, it's easy. It's Whitehorse. It was, again, I was lucky enough to end up in the final game. And as they were doing the introductions, the announcer said something like, and as they went through all the rest of the umpires, home plate was last. It said, and the home plate umpire, whatever the version is in French, I think arbitre de match, and from Canada. And he had a pause after from Canada and then my name. And it's just, I like to say at that point, the wind really blew up on the field and the dust got in the eyes and stuff. But I popped out of the tunnel a little bit and kind of like, oh, geez, and then had to try to get back ready for the game. But that's still, I mean, first international event, and then to really hear your name and beating one of 2 Canadians on the field with Terry Richter at first base from Alberta. So to beat the only 2 Canadians on the field in Canada at the final game was that's number 1 by a mile.
Good. I think mine, it has to be Special Olympics, and I've ref Special Olympics in basketball, and I've also umpired with Special Olympics as well. And nothing will bring a tear to your eye than working with Special Olympic athletes and how they work and how they work so hard, that I think that's probably the best thing I've ever done in my life in sport, was working with these athletes at the whether it's a provincial, Canadian, and I've been internationally as well. And so proud of them just for the love of the sport. So that's my most memorable.
That's a choke up moment.
Yeah.
Got me right there.
Well, guys, it's time to say goodbye. It's all good things, and it's been so good seeing you all. We see each other on a regular basis, but this has been a really good chat.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's been an exposure to parts of your lives and parts of your thought processes that normally we don't see. You know, when we get together, we're having lunch or whatever, but we don't have these kinds of conversations, and so it's been nice to be able to sit and chat. And I think Jill's going to pop back in here in a moment, but thank you all for your time today. It's been great, and your willingness to share with not just our umpire community, but our broad softball family across the country has been really great. And thank you for your promotion and hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Excellent.
you guys
Go
are
ahead,
all
Duffy.
an inspiration. That's for sure. You're an inspiration to me, and I love working with you guys. So
Feelings mutual.
All right, so thank you very much, Jeff, Donna, Sandra, and Scott. Before we get into a couple of questions from the general public, I just wanted to take a few minutes to recognize our great sponsors at Home Run Sports. They're the exclusive supplier of Softball Canada and our umpire apparel programs. We truly value their longstanding support of our sport and look forward to continuing to build our partnership for many years to come. Check out their website at homerunsports.com for all your softball equipment and clothing needs. So I have all of you here. I'll ask a couple of questions that came from the public. So this first one will be for, let's go with Sandra. All umpires have bad games. What do you do to cope or bounce back for that next game, especially in slow pitch, because the next one could be 15 minutes later?
That's right. I think like what Scott and I were talking about, breaking it down and what went wrong. And I've been in situations where I had to get right back in the next game, and just the breathing and bringing it, being mindful of being back in the next game, breaking down the pitches, or dealing with your situation. I think it happens to everybody in some regard, in some way, no matter what point you are in your career. And I think that, like Scott says, we're not perfect. The players aren't perfect. You look at the plays being played, but there's an expectation that we should be perfect, and that's not always possible. So I think being mindful of that and always doing our best and running through, breaking down the pitch is the best situation that I would give.
Good. This next one is for Jen. So first of all, congratulations on your assignment to the Olympics. After those games have finished, what are your plans to stay in and give back to softball after those Olympics?
It's a good question. Actually, for sure, I'm going to stay around because I love that sport too much. So I'm going to stay maybe as a supervisor at the national level, give clinics, level 4 maybe, clinics in French and or English. I want to be there in my province too. I want to be there on the national ODC still for a couple of years for sure. Try to, you know, bring that umpiring program up a notch with all those great peoples over there. And yeah, I want to be around for sure for many years.
Excellent. I like to hear that.
All right, so I've got one for Scooter now. Do you ever outgrow the need for having mentors and move on to another one as you develop?
Absolutely. You're always, mentors are kind of, I like to think of almost as like scene specific. So, you know, when you're working your first few years, you need somebody that's just in front of you that can help you out and really relate to your experience. And as you move through your experience levels, you need to find people that already have gone through that experience, so they can help you. So yeah, I think you're always going to want to look for a new mentor, and look for somebody that's really relatable to you. You know, being somebody that's in their first or second year and going to find an international official as a mentor right away is probably not a good idea. But finding somebody that's probably in their fourth or fifth year, that is a good person to find that can help you out. And just continuing to find different people, and you know, the more people you talk to, the better you get. You find your one person that really helps you at that time, and then you work together, and then at some point you may move on or they may move on, and that's okay.
Okay, so I'll direct one at Jeff right now. Not one of our speakers, but you're still on this, so you're not immune to questions. And it's a loaded question too. What makes Softball Canada's umpire program one of the best in the world?
The people. It's easy. You know, when we look at the history of our program, we've always had great leadership. Started with, you know, Ed Bitts and Jerry Howard and Wayne Brown and Bob and Stanton, who's now WBSC umpire director, and Banner with Brian Van Oss, and all the provincial people. It's just that we've had great people who had great vision. And it's not just the group, but it's the other supporting cast, people like Chris Lee and Don Bracey. And now I'm going to have to start naming everybody because I'm going to forget somebody and somebody's going to be mad. There's just so many great people who've been involved in our program, who put in the time and the effort. And, you know, it's humbling to go back to that term when you realize that, you know, the people that I used to look up to are now sitting on the sidelines, you know, watching us take control and work weave our thoughts and ideas into the program. And so, you know, we've always been a leader internationally, and you know, even across in North America. And so it's been good, but it's all about the people, and it's all about our history, and it's all about the great vision that people before me had for our program.
Okay, so two more questions. So the first one will be for Sandy. Have you found that the skills you've gained in umpiring, like conflict management, communication, has had a positive impact in other areas of your life? And if so, how?
Oh, absolutely. I think game management skills can be put into every factor in your life. No matter where you are, it's often when you're in a room full of people and you see people maybe just out and about in your groups, you think to yourself, would that person make a good umpire? Or would that person make a good referee? Because of the way they communicate. So I think we always do that. And the skills that I've gained through officiating, I think I use them on my grandson, even, that, you know, dealing with communication. I think it's transferable in every step of our lives, and it's been enjoyable. And sometimes it's an uphill battle, but it's a good fight.
Okay, so we'll end with this one, and I'll ask it to Jen as she has some prior playing experience. What advice would you give to young athletes who are still playing at a high level, but are also interested in starting to get involved in umpiring? Can it be done to play both at the rep level and also umpire games at the same time? Or is it better to wait until you're finished your playing career?
It's kind of hard to do, but I think it's worth it to do them both at the same time, because you learn a lot. The thing is, you don't want to get caught being an umpire and still playing. So being an umpire, thinking as a player. Because one of my mentors asked me at one point when I was umpiring, when you were watching a game, what are you watching? I'm like, oh, I'm watching the ball, the players. And then she said, no, you're not ready. I'm like, for what? She said, hold on. A couple of years later, I'm still in there. Same question. When you're watching a game, what are you looking at? Well, I'm watching, I don't know, the coach's strategies and everything. She's like, nope, you're not there yet. I'm like, they're where? And she said, well, wait. And then the year after, she asked me the same question. Now we're sitting in the stands watching a game. She said, what are you watching? Watching the umpires. She said, now you're ready. So I think it's 3 ways to watch the game. And then as you're a player, you're thinking like a player. And sometimes you don't have the maturity to make things apart, you know, thinking a player or thinking as an umpire. So if you're still a player, sometimes you umpire and you want to criticize the players, but it's not your role to do that. You have to be, you have to make sure you have the right hat on your head when you're going into a game. But I think it's a good thing to do both at the same time. But just make sure your mind is at the right switch, umpire or player.
That was a great analogy. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So thank you very much for all of you joining us today for this great webinar. We'll be posting it to YouTube later for anybody who wants to watch later. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jill.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Angela.
Bye, ODC buddies.
That concludes today's webinar. Thank you very much for joining us today and for submitting your questions. If you have any comments or suggestions for our speaker series webinars, feel free to send them to Gilles LeBlanc or Angela Ballantyne at Softball Canada. The next webinar we're going to be having will be Next Level Hitting on Tuesday, May 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time with our special guests Jeff Ellsworth and Jen Salling, 2 of the world's top hitters at the international level. Please make sure you register at softball.ca. Cela conclut notre webinaire d'aujourd'hui. Merci beaucoup d'avoir participé et d'avoir envoyé vos questions. Si vous avez des commentaires ou des suggestions pour ces webinaires, veuillez les envoyer à Gilles Leblanc ou Angela Ballantyne à Softball Canada. Le prochain webinaire sera frappé au prochain niveau qui aura lieu mardi le 12 mai à 2 h avec nos invités spéciaux Jeff Ellsworth et Jen Salling, 2 des meilleurs frappeurs au monde. Inscrivez-vous à softball.ca dès maintenant.